Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Curious Balance, written by elspawno. Galactic Inquirer, Confederation Network Feed, Opinion. Why did humanity win the Galactic War? Author Jakush Yataran Elasia. Since my time as a council member for the Imperium prior to its defeat and my retirement from politics, I've been asked this question by many, though few of them were human. One suspects humans instinctively know why they won the war, and why I'm now eking out a meager retirement as a columnist for an Earth news service. But non-humans are always intensely curious. Indeed, some even assign blame to me, as one of the many advisors to the Imperial dynasty. I should have known better, right? And never mind the supposed betrayal that followed. So I've taken the time to put this short piece together in the hopes of explaining what happened and the reasons for it. My readers, human and otherwise, can assign blame as much as they care to. For my part, I am old, and age has brought with it a lack of caring much for the opinions of others. That, one might say, is a consolation prize for getting old. Anyway, the Imperium was long aware of the burgeoning human race. The official Imperial policy in those days was to let a species advance to the point where it was experimenting with faster-than-light travel, or where it had successfully deployed generational sublight vessels. The nuance of the law aside, in practical terms, it meant when species first sent members out beyond its native solar system, probes generally didn't count, though there were exceptions. Imperial law was a Byzantine thing. But the Imperium was aware of the humans and watched them grow with trepidation. Most species were evolved herbivores. A few were even rather more like plants. Predator species always destroyed themselves long before leaving the native system. That rule had never failed in the hundreds of thousands of Earth years the Imperium had been in existence. Humans, on the other hand, were omnivores, an extreme rarity in the sentient race, and displayed that curious duality wherein they were nearly as warlike as predator species, but could band together in a peaceful herd when it suited them. Omnivorous species were rare enough that the evolution of the humans greatly disturbed the Imperium. The last such species to be discovered had been quietly wiped out by Imperial mass drivers before they could achieve spaceflight. They had leaned too close to the predatory side to be permitted to leave their home world. What their name was has been lost to the archivists. Another such species, my own, in point of fact, the Gakatal, had been allowed to advance to Imperial Protectorate status, but only because, despite our omnivorous status, we leaned heavily towards the herbivorous side. Still, the Imperium was watchful with us. And until the war, the bulk of the Imperial ground forces was staffed by the Gurkatal. We were the most violent race to achieve such a status. And the Imperium made such a use of us as they could. They wished to channel such energy where it might be best deflected peacefully. Humanity was judged to be almost exactly in the middle, between the Gurkatal and the Forgotten Race. And so the Imperium waffled. A curious human expression which us Gurkatal have adopted for its utility, on whether or not to destroy them, or permit them to reach protectorate status, presuming they did not destroy themselves in the meantime. Something even the Emperor earnestly prayed to the old gods for. Humanity made that decision for us. Unfortunately, the Imperials were unprepared for the rapid technological advancement of the humans. Omnivorous and predatory species all generally tend towards more rapid tech advancement, due presumably to their competitive drive. But humans took that to the extreme. They lacked even pack mentality of us Gakatal, save when it suited them. When it suited them, that is the uniqueness of humanity. They can be extreme individualists or the most ardent collectivists, and are quite unpredictable. A human may decide that he is peaceful today and wishes for the entire galaxy to share in his glorious vision of peace. Tomorrow, he may decide he prefers war and conquest. Today, he may decide he enjoys being part of a herd or a pack, and tomorrow, he may strike out on his own or abandon the group for another. Above it all, humans are quite practical about things. They are quick to adapt the techniques and ideas of others, if they work, and dispense the ineffective concepts that do not. This has made them excellent students of war within the gravity well. In fact, no one race even remotely approaches the mastery of planetary war possessed by humans, and this was true even before the Galactic War. If human conquerors land upon your world, leave. There is nothing else that you can do short of surrender or mass drive of bombardment. Within a 300 Earth-year time span, the humans went from primitive gunpowder and steam to discovery of the gravity drive. The indecision of the Imperium was broken, as the threat of humanity's proliferation scared them half to death. The Emperor said that they were lunatics with nukes, and the universe was not ready for them. But the Emperor was himself a lunatic with even more nukes, seems to have escaped everybody. But frightened herbivores have an ironically frightening ability to do stupid things. You would have had to have been there to understand the panic. The Emperor himself was a wreck. Hollow vids of Earth wars between human factions played out, and the entire Imperial court was horrified. One war in particular played out over and over in Imperial councils. Humans called it World War II. And the thing that frightened the Imperials the most wasn't the death or the genocidal actions, for the Imperium was no stranger to these things either, though they were much quieter about it. No, the evolution of human technology and tactics during this war was what worried them the most. They advanced the equivalent of 100 years of Gakatel technological advancement in the span of a decade, and next to humanity, us Gakatel were the fastest evolving race technologically. Humans were adaptable and pragmatic. Within a few galactic years of this war, humanity was already in space. A century after that, they had the gravity drive. Even on Gatak, this had taken almost 1,000 years, as for the rest of the Imperial species. Their date for acquiring such technology is so ancient only a forensic data archaeologist could possibly reconstruct it. Imperial decisions generally come slow. In this case, the Imperium was too slow. When the Annihilation Order was sent out, it was already too late. Yes, Earth was devastated in the mass driver bombardment, but their ground-based nuclear weapons and railgun emplacements on their moon eventually destroyed the bombardment fleet when they stupidly came in too close. No Gakatel was in the command during that expedition, I assure you. The only reason I'm here, able to write for this column, is that I was one of the few council members who advocated against attacking Earth. Else I would have dangled from the gallows with the rest. Note, the humans were quite inventive when they presented with species who breathed differently than they. The aquatic holocytes were particularly challenging to hang, but the humans managed a contraption to do the job, even though an underwater hanging just looked plain silly. They insisted that hanging was proper for crimes of genocide. No other would do. I didn't recommend against this because I felt any particular affection for humanity at the time. But because the only Gakatel in the council, I had some level of understanding that the rest lacked. I knew this was a terrible gamble to make. I know what violence looks like when properly unleashed. When Gakatel have some memory of our own wars between ourselves, better to make peace with Earth early and quickly, I knew. I advised caution, not fear, understanding, not war. Make peace pragmatic, and the humans would probably go with it, I said. Their drive for technological advancement might one day even serve the Imperium, I said. We all know how that played out. The Imperium felt that, though humans were masters in planetary combat, they did not yet possess enough ships, resources, or experience to engage effectively in space combat. This was all true, but not true enough. The humans were able to defeat the first wave just barely, but in the doing acquired access to Imperial technology. Human ships began incorporating our weapons at a frightening rate. Even shattered and backwards as it was, Earth outproduced even our most advanced factory worlds. Humanity dedicated itself to the war completely and totally, in a matter totally foreign to the Imperium, with every single human being thinking of little else but killing Imperials. It was the combination of herd and pack mechanics, the perfect fusion of predator and herbivore thinking. The humans were balanced in a way the Imperials and the dead races were not. And while the Imperial fleet won the first few space engagements, the humans learned quickly, just as they had done in the World War. And they had long considered their proper methods to fight in space. Few species bothered with such speculation until they were already in space. At least, so the ancient manuals say, and the manuals generally know what they are talking about. For humans, what they called science fiction played a great part in preparing them for this time. Soon, we were winning battles by the skin of our teeth, another human expression that has entered Gakatel parlance. And a few years after that, we stopped winning them altogether, except whenever we had overwhelming superiority in numbers. That too began to diminish over time. Gakatel starved much of the fleet too, and in the humans we began to see reflections of ourselves. Other races of the Imperium never really understood the humans. I don't think they do, even now, though some of the smarter ones have learned not to mess with humanity in the manner of the hatchling burned by fire, who as yet not understand how fire works. But we Gakatel did, though dimly. Soon all Imperial ships were commanded by Gakatel, all ground forces staffed by us. In some ways, this was a matter of natural selection. We survived sometimes, the others did not. But this became intentional after a while too. More of us earned promotion, more of us volunteered to fight. We became the entire war effort, even though we had advised against the war in the first place. No others could boast even our limited success against the humans. This is when the humans showed the other side of themselves. Yes, they were great masters of war, such that the galaxy had never seen before. But they were cunning in peace also. They knew the Imperium was vast, that the war to conquer it would take generations, not because of battles of technological advancement, but because of sheer size and scale. The Imperium boasted nearly 1 million worlds. By this time, the humans had conquered a few dozen. This had never happened before, of course, but at that rate, it would take them centuries to win the war. Human diplomats approached us, the Gakatel, and advised us that we had more in common with humanity than we did with the Imperium, who had once deliberated about wiping us out, too. Even though the Imperium had let us rise, in the end, we were still more akin to humanity than to the Imperium. They soothed us with praise of our valor, skill, and honor in combat. How no other race gave them such troubles as us. They were glorious in peace, as well as war. And they were also right. The succession of the Gakatel from the Imperium marked the end of the war, for with us came the best of the Imperial fleet. Throne World was besieged from orbit by the combined human Gakatel armada. Though unlike the Imperials, we did not use mass drivers upon them. There was no need. The Imperium was ill-prepared to resist, and they were too frightened to do much else other than contemplate the manner of their surrender. In the end, humans were merciful. Again, they are cunning in peace as in war. The Imperium was left mostly intact, save for the Terran sector, though the semi-divine Emperor and several advisors and counselors were executed for crimes against sentience for ordering the mass driver bombardment. Us Gakatel were granted our independence from the Imperium, and we immediately signed a non-aggression pact with humanity. Since then, some of Earth's colonies have begun quarreling amongst themselves in minor armed conflicts. Their technological development has slowed, though the pace of it is still rather exceptional by Imperial standards. Some of the dumber Imperials muse about this being a great opportunity to deal with the human problem once and for all. Us Gakatel and some of the smarter Imperials know better. Humanity appears like easy prey when threats against them are weak. But when threats become strong, they come together like a fearsome pack of predators, and will tear anything and anyone apart with relative ease. Take it from an old Gakatel, for a bit of what that fire is in us too. We know, we understand how it is with them. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster117, Caspar Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.